Good morning and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning. Everything's going to be around about Scotland today because let's face it, Scotland are absolute garbage. And we're going to listen to the man of the moment. And I said last night that I think it's probably time for Clark to go. And I'm going to talk about on the other channel, Baz does European football. I'm going to talk about who I think should be the Scotland manager and the candidates for the Scotland manager. But let's listen to the current Scotland manager. Oh, the joys.
Steve, disappointed, I'm sure, doesn't quite cut how you and the boys in that dressing room are feeling right now.
Yeah, tough night for us. Tough night. Couldn't do what we wanted to do.
And that's because you set them up the way you set them up.
So obviously we all suffer together. We're sad together. We're as sad as the supporters are because at the end of the day, we're all supporters. We all want to do well for our country. Unfortunately, it wasn't our night.
The man has to take some responsibility. He really does, and I hope he does.
Your players certainly gave you everything out on that pitch tonight, and the fact that it came down to just one moment, is that what really hurts?
Which moment?
Well,
The goal, obviously, and the inability to get any shots on target from a Scotland team. You've had two tournaments and you've only managed to score. Well, it wasn't even a Scotland player that scored the goal. It was a deflection. McTominay can claim that goal all he wants, but the keeper was getting that goal all day long, that ball. And if it wasn't for the fact that the defender stuck his foot out, Scotland would never even have scored a goal this tournament, and they never looked like scoring.
the goal I was talking about, but there were a few moments that we can perhaps touch on in the game as well.
Let's face it, they hit the post also, right? They hit the post also. They came closest to breaking the deadlock. They did ultimately break the deadlock. And when you see that their player went to hospital and everything, it was probably the right thing that they went through. People will say, it's kind of a karma thing. But let's listen to the Scotland manager again if we must.
Goal comes as a consequence of us trying to win the game. So the goal for me is almost irrelevant. The moment in the game is a penalty. It's 100% a penalty.
That means it would have been a draw. It means it would have been a draw.
Somebody has to explain to me why that's not a penalty, because otherwise I'm thinking there's something wrong.
Your players had to manage a lot out there tonight. That penalty claim, which they all felt was a penalty. There was the injury, the lengthy delay. How proud are you of the way that they did manage that game, and despite not quite seeing it out?
And the first thing to say is I hope the lad who's injured is okay, because it looked pretty bad. On the back of that was always a one-goal game. We didn't manage to get the goal. Obviously, we opened up at the end to try and get it. But the overriding feeling, rather than just analysing the game and thinking about the game, is just to be sad for everybody, to be sad for the supporters.
Fucking shut up. We opened up. He played like Kilmarnock away to Celtic or Rangers. He played, and let's be honest, he played like Kilmarnock. He played a defensive setup. He was the ex-Kilmarnock manager. He played like a team that didn't want to lose, that were going to try and like go for it the last 10 minutes. Is that where Scottish football is at? The bigger question, let's look at the league. And we're going to look at several things. And let's look at the SPFL table for starters, right? Is Scottish football in a good place? Let's be honest. I know a lot of these players do not play in Scotland. They've all decided to go down to the lower leagues in England, apart from a few who play in the English Premiership. But when you look at them, and this isn't something new, this isn't reactionary from me. This is something that I spoke about all of last season and before. I think that the top 12 as a concept is done and dusted. It does no favours to the league. And when you look at the fact that Dundee have earned more money than Aberdeen, Hibernian, and Motherwell, who scored more points than them because of the top 6 split, if we have this split. Now, that's financially had an impact on Aberdeen, Hibernian, and Motherwell. Is that correct? Is that fair? People will say, well, it's the way it is. Would Dundee have finished top 6 in the 6th position? I don't think they would have. But you never know. They might have. Do you know, they might have went on and it's all hearsay. I think the way that the Scottish League, I think we need to look at more than just the Scottish League setup, because the way that teams play in the Scottish League, it is very defensive. It is a bit like the way that Steve Clark plays, and it's terrible to watch, and it's bringing down the league, and that's why you've got a lot of the younger generations will follow the English Premiership teams. People don't go to Scottish games because they'll prefer to watch English Premier teams on the telly, and it's a sad state of affairs that you'll get buses going down to, you'll get people travelling all the way down to England to watch a game of football rather than watching Scottish football. Now, a lot of people will say, yeah, that's because Celtic's been dominant for the last 20 years. It's nothing to do with that. It's about ambition for the teams. It's about ambition from clubs. And you can look at clubs. I mean, I can remember going to Malmo Stadium, Malmo away with Celtic, and I can remember going to that stadium, and it was a tidy little stadium, and it was better than anything outside Celtic Rangers. I mean, it was only about I think it was only about 18,000 seater stadium, but it was a complete stadium with lots of bits for the posh seats and everything, and you know, it was just a different experience altogether. Scottish football needs a kick up the ass, and that goes all the way to the top. It goes away to the SPFL. It goes to the SFA. They've just underfunded Scottish football for such a long time. The people at the top at the SFA think that they're doing good deals for Scottish football, getting William Hill back in, and it's unbelievable. Things need to change in Scottish football, but nothing will. Nothing will. They'll stick with the status quo. They'll stick with the top 12 because it's protecting their interest. They'll stick with it because it gives them the 4 Glasgow derbies, which I think is past its sell-by date. 4 Glasgow derbies, it might be the only good game to watch during the season, according to some people. But as far as I'm concerned, it's an outdated concept, and the league should and needs to be changed. Now let's listen to one of the Scotland players who it looks like he might go to FC Copenhagen to play, Scott McKenna. And let's see what he says about the game last night also.
Yeah, definitely. You look around the dressing room, it's full of experience. I'm sure in the next year or two, there'll probably be a few younger players be added to the squad. That's just what happens in international football. You need to keep freshening it up. But Steve Clarke's been the man that's managed to get us here twice, brought belief to the nation again, and I'm sure he can continue to do that.
What did he say to you boys at the full-time whistle in the change room? What did he say?
Yeah, I think it was pretty much your first question there, just that we can try and do it again. When he looks around, he believes in us, and I think we've got to try and believe what he's saying as well.
I really try and believe in what he's saying. The man's talked utter waffle. I mean, fair play to him to get but we'll talk about it in another video because I want to talk about the managers that we have. Now, you've got to feel for the fans that went to games. You've got to feel for the fans because they've spent a lot of money.
Steve Clarke, sorry son, but you've got to go. You're useless, sick of this. I've spent about 10 grand to come here. It's a joke, and you didn't have a shot on target. Out. Go.
He's obviously for Fife. You could tell that accent a mile off. Absolutely raging. Imagine spending 10 grand to follow Celtic over the space of a couple of week period. Oh my God, man, that's some amount of bevy.
That boy's a Davy Neri. You're a legend. That boy's a.
We've all come out, we've enjoyed ourselves, we've had some fun with the Hungarian fans have been great. It's just a bit disappointing. That's all it is.
You sum up your own emotions right now.
Yeah, these people are all. There's a lot of people that are angry. I'm not angry. I just wish they kind of played a wee bit better. Our injuries, I think that's the problem. We had 5 of our best players out before today, and then you had McGinn coming off, Robertson coming off.
You think the manager got it wrong today, though?
No. I always have faith in Stevie Clarke.
Oh,
He's
Jesus
got
Christ.
us to 2 Euros. When was the last time we were at the Euros? 96. We were at the World Cup 98. Whatever Stevie Clarke says, I'll go with.
Not one Scotland player scored a goal here.
Nope.
I bet he doesn't follow a Scottish team and he doesn't go to Scottish football. And that's the sad thing about Tartan Army. There's a big, massive majority of the Tartan Army, and I can vouch for this because I've got, I know 4 people that follow Scotland all over the place, cousins of mine that stay down south in England. They're members of the Tartan Army. They go to every single game. Do they attend Scottish football? No, they don't. The majority of the older generation of Scottish Tartan Army fans do not go to ground level football on a week-to-week basis. Now, there is a lot of Scotland fans that do. And I know guys for Perth and everything that follow St Mirren, St Johnstone, sorry, and they go. But is that Scotland fan right? Now, let's get to see what some of the Scotland fans were saying. Shankland should have been on at half-time. Robertson looked tired, just negative all the time. It's brutal to watch. It was a must-win versus Hungary. We lost and had 0 shots on target. In the opener, we lost by a record-breaking result and had 0 shots on target. We had 1 point gained our goals down to defending. It's just bad reading. Now, Chris Sutton put his tuppence worth into it. Gutted for Scotland. However, I'm not sure why Stevie Clarke didn't use James Forrest when the team struggled to create chances all tournament. Looking at Armstrong penalty claim, Armstrong was more interested than trying to get the defender to bundle him than trying to shoot. And I think he's probably right about that. I think he was probably playing for the penalty. And would that be right or wrong? Well, in top level football and around Europe, it happens week in, week out. People will say it happens in the SPFL week in, week out. But the fact that it was a must-win game, there are two people that I said before the game should have probably started for Scotland, and that was James Forrest and Shankland. Because we needed, you've seen the difference when Shankland came on. And it'll be interesting to see if anyone makes a move for him this summer. James Forrest, he hit form at the right point of the season. He was able to get past people. We needed someone on the wing that could do that. In Scotland, it just didn't happen. Anyway, talking about players who might be on the move from Celtic. We'll get back to talking about Celtic now because we have rambled on quite a bit about Scotland last night. But is Scottish football really in a good place? That is the big question for today. Tell me in the comments. Now, it is just a week to go until the European transfer window opens, and it's going to be an interesting time. It is open until Friday, August the 30th, so the transfer window shuts on a Friday night, which will be interesting. The deadline usually falls on the 31st, which happens to be the Saturday. However, in this case, it's usually a case that they carry it forward to the Monday, but that would be Monday the 2nd of September. However, this year, it looks like they are going to close the transfer window on the 30th of August. Whilst most leagues in Europe windows start on the 1st of July, the general deadline has been set this year. The winter deadline will close on the 3rd of February. And it's going to be an interesting one for Celtic. There is one player, and maybe it'll be the case that Celtic are waiting for the official European window to open before they start making signings. One Celtic player has been subject to a bid already. Has been understudy. He has been understudy, Kyogo Furuhashi, ever since joining Celtic after the Grumpy Greek left Celtic, because he wasn't interested in playing for Celtic because due to a lack of game time. He has now moved on since then, and Celtic have had even more money from the Grumpy Greek because he's moved from America down to Mexico, I think it was he's moving to, and he has just give Celtic another 900 grand payday. But having a bit part role at Celtic isn't for everyone, and it looks like O is expected to leave this summer. Belgian team Genk have been in there, and it looks like they have put an improved offer to get this deal over the line. The 23-year-old South Korean was obviously signed by Ange Postecoglou when he came into Celtic. He could pick a player out for down then. He has signed a few players, Ange, that haven't worked out as well, and it is time to move on. Ange Postecoglou's connection to the Far East was a good project and a good thing to do at the time, but has it been a good thing for Celtic? He's obviously unhappy at his time at Celtic. Big Grumpy Greek was unhappy at game time also. These players coming in, their first choice strikers. Is it the way that Celtic play with just one up front? Do we need to change that? Can we go to a 3-5-2, for instance? I think in Scottish football, Celtic should be playing 3-5-2 anyway, especially when you're sitting with teams playing this low block. There's absolutely no when people are sitting playing with five at the back, Stevie Clarke style, when they're playing with five at the back in the Scottish Premier League, and Celtic are saying, but we're playing three up front, we're playing one in the middle and two wingers. Yeah, but they're playing with five at the back, so they've got three guys around your centre, your striker. Celtic need to be playing 3-5. That's only my personal opinion. Tell me yours in the comments. Do you think that Celtic excelled when they played 3-5-2? Let's face it. Under Martin O'Neill, we played 3-5-2. We've got 2 European finals, so there has to be something in that. You know, the correlation between playing 3-5-2 and the European run that we had then to playing one up front since the Rory Dyler years and doing absolutely rubbish in Europe. You're not telling me that there's not an indirect correlation between the results and the way that we've played in Europe to the team setup, because I think there is. But anyway, we move on for that. The fact that there has been an improved offer by Genk. And is it time that Celtic just said, look, just sell him? Even though that Celtic are waiting on Adam Eder thing coming to a conclusion. Will Celtic even get the Adam Eder deal done? If Celtic really want the player, just throw the money on the table. Stop pissing about. Stop, make them an offer that it's hard to refuse. The Norwich chairman has come out and said, look, it doesn't matter what the manager says. The manager says, I want to look at the player, but their financial trading model is something similar to Celtic. If an offer comes in for the player, you're taking that offer all day long, just the exact same way as Celtic did. We thought we were going to have Jota for another season and going into the Champions League, and we thought, we just need to strengthen the team a little bit. But no, we sold Jota for 25 million. So there you go. Anyway, the fact that the transfer window does open in a week's time, it will be interesting. Remember, we will be doing a live video on Thursday morning. The fixtures will be released on Thursday morning, 9 o'clock in the morning. We'll do a live at 8:45. Watch this, it'll probably be released at 8 o'clock in the morning or something. I'll miss it. But anyway, as soon as they're out, we are doing that live, and we'll talk about the fixtures for the season ahead. Morning. Anyway, what do you think about the Scotland team last night? What do you think about what Chris Sutton says? Is Chris Sutton right? I don't know why he took James Forrest to the tournament. James Forrest, from a Celtic perspective, James Forrest was on fire towards the end of the season. He could get past players. He knew exactly when to cut in the outside of the box. He could take a shot on goal, something that was severely lacking through this tournament. Now, I got slated at the first game of the tournament when I said that Clark got it wrong. I've been proven right. The fact that Stevie Clark played that little midfield four really compact against Germany, and Germany just went past us like butter through a hot knife through butter just out the fridge. I never know what it's like when you don't support Celtic and you're winning all the time. Anyway, on that note, time to wrap the video up. There'll probably be another video later on this afternoon when we'll look at the Scotland players, how they performed, and how two of them went all the way to Germany. And the only good point about them being in Germany is they've maintained their fitness. James Forrest has managed to maintain his fitness that he had, and hopefully he'll maintain that for him, which will give the manager something to think about, because with pre-season only days away, yes, the Celtic players will start returning this week. I believe that the Sevco players return today with a stadium with no roof, and there's a stand with no seats and no steel work. That's fucking Del Boy Trotter and Del Boy and Rodney, isn't it, that runs that mob. Anyway, on that note, try and have a fantastic day, Celtic fans all around the world. And if you're still feeling depressed about Scotland, that's all right. Jump over to Bazda's Euro Football, and we're going to talk about who I think should be the next Scottish manager. And I'm going to talk about potential candidates.